You know, it's always a great time when Miss Ava DuVernay has a film that's about to be released, so let's talk about it. And guys, I do apologize. Right now, at the time of this recording, I am a bit under the weather. I tried to wait as long as I could to get better, but I'm still a little sick. So please forgive me if this video is not as energetic as my past videos. Thank you so much for your patience. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Origin movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Origin is the latest film that is about to hit theaters in 2024. It had a limited release at the end of 2023, but this week, January the 19th, 2024, it will have a wider release across the country. Now, this is being directed by Miss Ava DuVernay. She is fantastic. Pretty much everything that she's been a part of has been fire. She was the director of Selma, 13th, and When They See Us. I wasn't the biggest fan of A Wrinkle in Time, but hey, everybody doesn't have a perfect day at the office. Now, this film is based off of a book titled Caste: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. And if you've read that book and you liked it, please let me know down in the comments section below. Now, as far as my expectations are concerned going into this film, they were super duper high. They were through the roof because it's Ava DuVernay. She directed this and wrote it. And like I said, pretty much everything that she has been a part of on her filmography is fire. She's always able to tackle films and TV streaming shows that has to do with race. She does a great job of that no matter what level your awareness is. And so that's what my expectations were going into this film. But before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film Origin is all about. The unspoken system that has shaped America and chronicles how lives today are defined by a hierarchy of human divisions. And the very first thing that I really did like about this film is the title of it, Origins, because it has dual and or triple meaning. What I mean by that is we are all at different levels of awareness in our lives when it comes to certain things. And this film does shine a big light on racism, but not just racism, but the caste systems that have been thriving throughout the world for a number of decades and hundreds of years, unfortunately. But with it being titled Origin, it is the origin of how a lot of that has begun over the past few generations, going all the way back to Nazi Germany in Berlin in the 1930s. And so if you've never came across this type of material before, it is kind of an origin story for you to get started if you are interested in doing some type of research to increase your education on the matter. Also, I like that it's called Origins because it is the start of her consciousness awakening as she's doing research in this film. And who am I talking about? It is Isabel Wilkerson, being played by Anjanou Ellis-Taylor. She was phenomenal in this film, and I will talk about her a little bit later, of course, in this review. But like I said, we are all at different levels of awareness or consciousness when it comes to these type of things. And while she is educated, while she is a published author and has won a number of awards, she only knows so much. And at the very beginning of this film, because of tragic events that have happened in real life, speaking on Trayvon Martin, her consciousness, her awareness awakens, and it is the origin of her story of how she goes on this new journey, this new mission, this new project to fight justice and find peace in this horrible world that we can live in sometime. This is also a great origin for the viewers, me and you, as we're watching this movie. Again, if you've never come across this type of material before and you are interested in doing research to increase your own education, this film, just like all of Ava DuVernay's previous films, it can be a great starting point for you, a great launching point for you if you wanted to get started doing your research and gaining knowledge on different aspects of life when it comes to racism and caste systems. What I also liked about this movie is it's just the right temperature. Of course, there are a number of tragic events that does happen in this film, ranging from Trayvon Martin victims of the Holocaust, the Middle Passage, and all of the atrocities that are going on in India right now with their Dalits or the untouchables that they were called in the past. However, this is not trauma porn. It is the perfect degree of letting you know what's going on, how things went down, and how they were interpreted across the world. But it doesn't beat you over the head with it with a bunch of gore and violence, making you want to close your eyes or run out of the theater or wherever you're watching this film at. It's just the right temperature, and I think that that was very, very necessary for it to be palatable while you're watching this without it being too much. And with that being said, I really do like the attention to detail that Ava was able to display on screen as well when she's depicting a number of these scenes, in particular the Middle Passage. Now, I have not seen every movie, every TV show, so there may have been past projects that have illustrated this well, but I really do like the way that she depicted the Middle Passage of showing black slaves trapped and bundled up at the bottom of ships, being tortured and dying as they're trying to come over to America. It was very disgusting to look at, but again, it was the right temperature. It wasn't watered down, but it wasn't over the top either. It was right there in the middle, and I thought that was absolutely perfect. So great job there, Ava. I also like that this was simplified as well. There are a number of talking points that you've heard in the news that is in this film, and also conversations that I'm possibly sure you've had with friends, families, colleagues over the years when it comes to racism and caste systems. But it's simplified in this film for you to understand very, very easily, also without it being dumbed down to an elementary or remedial level. Again, it's right there in the middle for you to comprehend very easily. And also, I was able to relate to our main character, Isabel, played by Ingenue. I don't know how many times in my life, especially in the past, to where hindsight was 2020, where a certain conversation was coming up about racism, about caste systems, and I knew how I felt in the moment, but I was not able to articulate the words the way that I really, really wanted to. But then I thought about the perfect response 10 minutes later after the conversation ended, the next day or the next week. It was really frustrating. And I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have thought about this then at that point in time, because I could have smashed this person in this conversation and or debate. That happened a number of times. Well, I don't want to say a number of times, but at least once or twice in this film. And it's just very, very relatable as she's going through this journey or her origin story to kind of seek justice through writing material that the masses can consume. I really like how that was called out by her cousin, Isabel's cousin, played by Niecy Nash in this film. She was great too. I really liked the addition of her character. And let's just talk about the characters. Now, while Ingenue Ellis-Taylor was fantastic in this film, and she really did showcase a lot of her talent, she wasn't necessarily the best in this film, and that's not a bad thing. I was really blown away by some of the performances by some of the supporting actresses in this film that are part of her family. I'll just let you watch the movie yourself and be able to pinpoint those, because I want it to be a surprise. But there was a number of times where characters were emoting about things that happened in their past as Isabel is going around the world doing research. And I choked up a few times. I was getting emotional. I mean, a tear may have dropped down my face a number of times. Now, I'm not saying that Ingenue's performance wasn't good. It was damn good in this film. I just was kind of surprised that some of the supporting cast had better performances than the main actress in this film. I don't know too many times that's happened, but that was really noticeable to me while I was watching this. But great job overall from everybody that was involved. And after this, I really do have respect for Isabel's character. While she was on this project, this mission to find answers, she was going through a lot. There was a lot of loss in her family, but she continued to strive. She continued to work hard and not let anything get in her way. I mean, majority of this is based on a true story. It's a dramatization of the book. But over and over, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just so much. How much can this woman take? But she just keeps going. She keeps working. She keeps striving. And like I've always said, I can do nothing but respect characters that will persevere like that. And she did all the way throughout this movie. And there are so many different levels of racism that goes on throughout this film and throughout life, and they had a number of levels they did display on screen. Some are systematic, some come from individuals and all of their microaggressions. And it's really interesting how different people deal with them and can really get your blood boiling on sometimes certain Black people have to handle certain situations. So for example, if you're having a flood in your home and there's water everywhere, but the plumber shows up with a red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that really sucks because you know how that person feels, but you're in a crisis right now. Okay, you have water all over your basement. What are you going to do to make sure that they do the job right and take care of you, but at the same time not take advantage of you? Because you're Black and they have a "Make America Great Again" hat on. The way you have to deal with all of those microaggressions, it can be really, really frustrating. And I like how that was presented in this film. And there is more than one example of that. I just also like the fact that how they had multiple generations of people in one scene witnessing racism throughout the news and how those different generations react to it. I am a part of the millennial group. Of course, my parents are part of the boomer class. Now, I do have my opinions and feelings on how the boomer class as a whole handles racism. However, those are feelings and emotions, not necessarily backed up by facts. So I can't come to any conclusions. I can't just say, hey, you guys should have handled it this way or should have handled it that way. I wasn't even alive during that time, so that would be ignorant. Like I said, I do have my feelings and emotions about it, and it is up to me to do my research and dive deep to kind of figure out what's going on and why the torch wasn't passed down the way I perceived that it should have been. But when that's in this movie right here, you have people that are part of these generations, and you're just kind of saying like, man, I understand the way that you're handling, that's how you handle it, but I disagree. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the way that the older generations are handling it wrong. They were just alive during a different part of time, and there was just things that were accepted and not accepted. But it's frustrating, but it's also a great reflection on life, and I really did like that right there. And again, all of us, no matter what generation we are a part of, we are conditioned to think and act a certain type of way, and it's really hard to break that. And if you're trying to, it can really explode in your face. Doing certain scenes when I was watching this film, I was kind of thinking about The Matrix when Morpheus was trying to wake up Neo and was just saying, you know, hey, once a human being is alive for a certain amount of time, there is no going back. They're just stuck the way they are. They're conditioned this way. And if you try to wake them up too late, it could be a disaster.
We never free a mind once it's reached a certain age. It's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go.
And that really sucks because that's just another reflection of life in this film. And if somebody's a part of the boomer class or older, you just kind of have to sigh and shrug your shoulders and just accept it for what it is. And you really can't do anything. You can't argue with somebody else's experience. I just like how all of that was in that movie, and that's just the way that I perceived it, but it spoke volumes to me, and I really did appreciate it. But this was a really, really intriguing film. There was a number of online pundits years ago that would talk about the caste system and how it operates throughout the world. And it's a very important subject matter that I think everybody should increase their education on. That is the main plot point of this movie. And I love all of the research that Isabel was doing in this film to try to find answers to all of these questions that we can have sometime. She was really in the trenches deep doing her research and did not hold back, traveling across the world, just doing everything that she possibly could do to make this thesis showing how everything is connected with racism and caste systems all the way to present day, going all the way back to World War I and World War II when it comes to Nazi Germany. I really did love all of that, especially one particular subplot in this film that had to do with a Jewish couple and an African-American couple. It was so damn good to me. I wanted to stop the movie and just jump on Google and do some research like, wow, I've never heard of this story before. This is really crazy right here. I'm so upset that I've never heard of this. And there's a lot of that in this movie on a good note. But overall, guys, it was pretty damn good. But that's going to wrap up everything that I really did like about this film. Now, let me talk about some things that I feel the film didn't reach its full potential on. And one of them is I just mentioned when it comes to one of the subplots of an African-American family and also a Jewish family that goes back to like 1933 and 1934. that was very intriguing to me. That was one of the most exciting points in this movie for me, and I wanted to learn everything about it. However, I liked the introduction to this story, to this subplot, but I feel like it was incomplete. In the middle of the film, the subplot was abandoned, and I was waiting for them to come back and address it again to let me know, the audience member, what happened. But when they came back to address it, it was barely skimmed over, and that's really disappointing. I was about to be really turned off, like, wait, how can you just stop in the middle of the story and not complete it? But when they came back, it just wasn't enough for me, and I wanted them to dive into that subplot just a little bit more, so that is disappointing. Something else that concerns me, and I could be wrong, is I don't want anybody to walk away after seeing this film saying, you see, oppression is evil, and even across the board. It doesn't matter if you're red, white, yellow, black, and brown. We have all been oppressed. We have all been treated unfairly, and it's even across the board. We all are a part of this caste system. Doesn't matter if you're this color, that color. I'm kind of concerned that some people may walk away feeling that way. Now, I am not trying to be an advocate for the oppression Olympics. Like, we were oppressed worse than you were, and so we deserve better treatment, yada, yada, yada. I just want the truth to be told, for it to be an accurate account of history. And then you can be the judge from there. And the film does do a great job of going back into history, but at the same time, I feel like oppression in this film was kind of flattened. Now, there was one particular scene that does address this, but it was brief, where one group of people, one party was like trying to compare the Holocaust to 246 years of chattel slavery, followed by 100 years of Jim Crow laws. Speaking about Jim Crow laws, there was a nugget of history that was talked about in this film of how Nazi Germany did use American Jim Crow laws to oppress people over in Germany during that time between World War I and World War II. And I didn't know that, and I want to learn more about it. But I don't want them flattening oppression in this film, saying that it was even across the board. Again, there was one scene that did address this when they were trying to talk about how long the Holocaust lasted, opposed to 246 years of chattel slavery. I mean, there is no comparison. And I like the way that it was addressed in that particular scene, but I still feel like there is a blanket over this film that is flattening oppression for people across the world. And I may be wrong in that, but I want to hear from you in the comment section. Other than that, guys, this film was fantastic and I loved it. Again, we're only in January right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if this movie was in my top 10 best or top 10 favorite of the year. And I really can't wait to see all of the conversations that are started from this film, because there's going to be some great discussions that come from it. I will go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end, but for now, guys, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did like this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, helping me reach my next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. And guys, if I had to rate Origin out of a 1 out of 10, I would give it a solid 9 out of a 10. Yes, a solid 9 out of 10. But guys, again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.